Hey, happy 4th of July. It's Monday, July 4th, 2022. First thing I want to do is give a shout out to Professor Angelo Sante, who's thinking about making some posts of her own. And I hope she does because, she hits the social issues also, no differently than any of us out here in the big wide world web. But she's actually very good with the down to earth, common sense kind of talk also, and I'm hoping that she starts up and it's a major success for her as well. That being said, I want to get into the social issues. Usually what I talk about, the stuff that's happening here in Texas, in the Lone Star State, just outside of Fort Worth area in Holton City. Shooting took place, 2 dead, 4 injured, including 3 officers. The police were called to a residence on reports of shots fired. Officers did return fire. The results of those shots was unknown. Now, more than likely, they were the ones that killed the gunman because he's deceased, and there was a military-styled rifle and a handgun with the gunman's deceased body. Taking a step back, this is a congratulations on both sides. Those that hate the guns and need gun reform, and those that praise the guns and say guns save lives. This particular issue, I imagine, is going to be brought up on both sides of the debate. But it does also make me want to say, y'all be careful out there. Try to keep cool, stay cool. We're at a 4th of July weekend celebration of an American continent that came from some pretty rough upstarts, but we've come a long way since then, and we're still perceiving to do more and better, and all this good stuff. The America of today is incredibly different from the past, and it's such a shame that we can't get over our domestic issues and do this kind of stuff to where we're killing each other and shooting each other, including shooting cops and everything. Speaking of debates, on both sides of the debate, here's something that I've got to point out, which is the main topic today. Mayorkas defends the U.S. border policy after death of 53 migrants in a trailer tractor. It's been a small while since I touched the immigration, but I've been pretty much touching it based on the criminal element, and aside from the few decisions like Title 42 and now the Remain in Mexico policy. But with this 53 migrants' deaths, a lot of people are saying Biden's a failure, and so is the administration and the departments dealing with this kind of stuff. Now, the Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas defended the Biden's administration immigrant policy, saying the U.S. immigration officials have repeatedly warned against traveling to the southern border, which is true. They have been doing that. He also stated the Biden administration has been working closely with Mexico in addressing the high numbers of migrant arrivals along the border as a regional challenge that requires a regional response. And it makes sense, and there's a huge, ugly truth to that as well. Because the opposition to that, the opposite of that, is everyone who isn't even in the region saying that this is an invasion. Wild accusations of the bad hombres coming across the border, and they're doing nothing but scare tactics, That's a huge opposite of what's actually going on, which is the struggles of maintaining order, maintaining law, keeping everybody safe from both perspectives, from the United citizen to the immigrant. Continuing, here's what I mean by that. Continuing, these are very sophisticated transnational criminal organizations. They have evolved over the last 30 years. In the 90s, I being Alejandro Mayorkas, I persecuted them, and they were much more rudimentary. Now, they are very sophisticated using technology, and they're extraordinarily organized transnational criminal enterprises. Okay, what I caught out of that was this 30 years experience, that 30 years experience, and that whole rudimentary versus today's sophisticated using technology, and that they're a criminal enterprise. Those are the catchwords that I got, and it's just really, really incredible to think how in the world people could say that this guy's a failure and all this stuff. I'm sure he's dropped the ball a couple of times. 30 years into it, you know he's fallen flat on his face from time to time. But for him to be able to describe this, so, I mean, it's generalized, but to describe his experience, you know, so well, that stands out to me. You know, I'm not saying you should follow it. I'm not saying that you should turn away from it either. But that says a lot to this guy right here. Continuing, Mayorkas in the U.S. have also ramped up its efforts through technology and manpower, with the authorities at the border saving more than 10,000 people this year. Now, technically, this year is not over. We're technically at the halfway point. But what did I tell you? What did I tell you through previous posts? What did I tell you about letting the law be the law? Okay? Instead of being these clowns and lapdogs that my Texas governor the current Texas governor is making them out to be. He's got them at border checkpoints checking tire pressure on the cargo trucks. Trucks just like that tractor trailer. He's got them checking fluid levels, you know, making sure that they're wearing the proper, they got the proper stickers on their windshield and stuff, you know, instead of actually trying to catch criminals. You know, if you just let the law be the law, if you go through any of my earlier postings, 70 kids recovered and rescued, you know, a whole list of drugs that have been stopped. I mean, we're talking a U.S. citizen walking in with 30 pounds of meth, you know, foreigners crossing the border, 2 bundles of fentanyl pills, you know, 36 pounds of cocaine just a couple of days. Well, the next day, actually, that was June 6th. This is all throughout the month of June that I was talking about. 21 pounds of meth, 12 pounds of fentanyl, 2 pounds of heroin, all in one car. A day later, 14 pounds of fentanyl in somebody's car. You know? I mean, you got that going on. You've got children being rescued. You know, 300 pounds of meth with a street value of $4 million being stopped. And that's just the objects and substances. We're talking about migrants being caught. We're talking about like that 70 missing children. Their abductors and traffickers were apprehended. You know, their abductors and traffickers were apprehended, as were, you know, as were so many other people, including that 10,000 people just within this year, you know. Now, can a truck get through sophisticated means? Yes, sometimes. But we have interdicted more drugs at ports of entry than ever before. We rescued more migrants. We've seen a challenge that is really regional, hemispheric in scope, and we're addressing it accordingly. Okay, this is what I've been talking about when you just let the cops do cops. You know, all that stuff like the 70 missing kids and stuff, the 70 trafficked children, you know, they were apprehended in Beto's territory. Beto O'Rourke, who's in charge of El Paso. He's not a governor yet, knock on wood. But over there where they're not using anything that Greg Abbott has offered, particularly through Operation Lone Star. He's used tons of tax-paying dollars. He sued Biden for a bunch of money out of that $550 billion free spending through the infrastructure plan. And he's taken millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to his causes, which involves Operation Lone Star, where Operation Lone Star is doing stuff like making criminals out of people. And I'm going to remind you, I know I've said this before, I'm going to remind you again about one woman who was found with one loose leaf of marijuana. It weighs less than 2 grams. And it's a misdemeanor. But she was arrested, charged as a felon, and it was all dedicated accredited to Operation Lone Star. That plan, procedure, policy that's supposed to be protecting us from migrants. The woman was an American. She was a white American who was pulled over for speeding and charged with marijuana as an illegal alien. And this is what Greg Abbott is trying to make everybody out there believe. See, we're saving America. We're protecting our country. We're protecting Texas. That's what goes on when you have cops as lap dogs doing stuff like making criminals instead of actually dealing with them. Okay? And the big prime example of that, and I really don't mean to bring it up because it brought on so much hurt, but this is a necessary pain. The biggest prime example is the Uvalde shooting, where cops would rather handcuff parents who want to go in to rescue their children because the cops won't. The cops were inside the dang school, not confronting or not distracting or not trying to stop the gunman. But you saw file footage. The news was everywhere on this. You saw cops running back and forth around the building and to and from the building with the AKs and the body armor and the RVs and all this good stuff. They looked badass. They were looking like badasses. Of course, they weren't being badasses. 19 kids and 2 adults. They weren't being anywhere near a badass. And this is what we get. This is what we get when we get a governor that has our cops posing as badasses. As far back as guarding caged children at the border in those holding facilities. Everybody's going, what caged children? What caged children? Those caged children that have been recorded as far back as the Obama administration, because it got started during the Obama administration, went all the way into the Trump administration, along with a couple of sexual trespasses. Well, not a couple, 4,500 plus sexual trespasses of the migrants captured and caged. Since that time, all the way up to this time, where we have cops following douchebags like our governor, who has been in charge all this time since 2015 of Texas. He's been in charge of Texas since 2015. He's had cops being this way for quite a long while. For so long and so deep into it that when the time came to deal with an actual threat assessment, those cops in particular didn't do a damn thing. They ran around posing like, going from one end to another with their body armor and their AKs and all them, going over there and then running back over here to the RVs and then getting into the RVs and driving all the way to the other side. And all sorts of, they were looking badass, but they weren't doing squat. They were looking like the answer, to a threat assessment, except the threat was still assessing. It was still going on while they were there. And that's just in Uvalde to the west of us. At the border, you had a lot of them sneaking in and out and all this other stuff. One of them, concerning this subject, was the driver of the 53 migrant deaths, in that tractor trailer. You'll see footage. You turn to any news info, what do you call it? report where they show pictures of the driver, and he's smiling away. He's sharing laughs with the cops that are checking his truck, except they weren't checking his truck. My Texas governor, Greg Abbott, has had DPS, state troopers, Customs Border Patrol. He's got officers going to those checkpoints, those truck stops, and instead of checking cargo for drugs or people or weapons or anything like that, he's got them checking the tire pressure. He's had them checking to make sure that they had fluids that in their engines under the hood. You know, he's had them making sure that they had the proper sticker decal on the windshield, instead of doing what cops and DPS and Border Patrol is supposed to be doing, what state troopers are supposed to be doing, which is checking out, investigating and apprehending criminals, and if possible, saving the migrants. You know, and then our governor, you know, he's going, hey, Biden needs to do his job. Well, these past incidences, you know, the 70 missing children, 70 missing and human trafficked victims in a 3-week Texas operation, all of it handling outside of Greg Abbott's scope into Betos territory where El Paso is, all the way up to Dallas-Fort Worth, and out of Texas into Colorado and south of the border into Juarez, Mexico. Okay? Cops were doing cops. They were rescuing trafficked children. And this is all in Betos territory. While Governor Mayorkas, Homeland Secretary Mayorkas has their facilities and all this stuff, which again, ramping up efforts with technology and manpower, authorities at the border saving more than 10,000 people just in this year. You know, when you got cops just being cops, when they are doing their job, you get these positive results. And that list of drugs that I read off. And I know I've said it before through previous posts. I'm going to say it again. You know, for some oddball reason, and well, that's just oddball reason, it's just the ignorant. It's just the people that want to frown at the Homeland Secretary who's working in this administration, which is under Biden. You know, everybody wants to frown at them and say that nothing's being done, when it's the exact opposite. A lot of stuff is being done, and a lot of the worthless douchebag stuff is being done by that very opposition who's barking this entire time. Who's doing nothing but bark and spit and all this other crap. And I'll give you another example. I know I said this in the previous post. I'm going to say it again. You know, $550 billion of free spending in the Biden's infrastructure program. The governor sued the government, saying that they're responsible for the migration and all this property damage all throughout Texas. Technically, he only tended to 4 counties. Okay? He sued for millions of dollars. He tended to 4 counties, a couple of ranches, where he set up brand new fencing. And I don't know if any of you know about this, but fencing is about $1.50 per yard, or foot rather. I think it's a foot. $1.50 per foot, you know, and it's barbed wire. Okay. And he's posted signs, which is about $9 to $10 at Home Depot. No trespassing signs on barbed wire fences. Okay, at the ranches and the farmlands where, you know, that's what you'll find surrounding the land. Barbed wire. Okay, he sued the government for millions of dollars for that. Only tended to 4 ranches in 4 different counties and claimed a victory on fencing and no trespassing signs. Okay? You know he pocketed the rest. Okay? You know he pocketed the rest. He's got a military down here. Some from as far north as Ohio or Iowa or something like that. An Iowa State National Guard came down here, patrolling back and forth. The military patrolling the river, patrolling the border. Not one rescue, not one arrest. Nobody's doing anything. They're just driving back and forth. In the meantime, traffic people are being sent across and are getting caught on our side of the border. Another example was that 4 migrants dead in a car chase. The cops that were actually patrolling and doing their job found SUV trying to get away from them, so they gave chase. Unfortunately, that same SUV flipped over and carrying the 4 immigrants in them. The 4 immigrants died in that impact. The driver survived and was airlifted to the hospital. He was arraigned in court. He's going to have his case coming up soon. This was just outside of Laredo in a county called LaSalle. In LaSalle, actually the town. Okay? And it's just 40 miles away from that tractor trailer. Tractor trailer? Yeah, tractor trailer. Where the 50 were dead. Where they got baked in that tractor trailer. Okay, and that's just on top of previous footage of other vehicles, where they had to slow down a little bit while being chased by the cops, for the migrants to jump out, tuck and roll and tumble out while the vehicle was still moving. This is, the trailers that they'd pull over, because it was a free trailer with the wooden planks and all that good stuff, but they noticed a bottom platform underneath the trailer hauling platform, the cargo hauling platform up on top. So when they cracked open the woods, it turns out when they removed the wooden planks, it turns out there were migrants sardined in the lower platform. Underneath, they were sardine laid out in there, and that's what cops do when they're dealing with the migrants that are being trafficked in. They're capturing people that are forcing them to tuck and roll while they're still driving. They have them sandwiched under platforms and cargo trailers, if not sandwiched in the back of pickup trucks, sardined, I should say, sardine-contained, And our Texas governor, he's got military patrolling the borders, where they're not capturing anybody. And back to the tractor trailer, the driver of that, you see footage of him smiling, shaking hands or waving at the sharing laughs with the DPS and the Border Patrol and the state troopers, who are checking his tire gauge, checking the tire pressure, checking to see if he's got his fluids under the hood. And he's just smiling away. The footage is there. See for it yourself. I'm not making any of this up. Now, in regards of the, I'm going to move on to that. In regards to the Remain in Mexico policy, the Immigration Department, Customs Border, they're pleased with the decision because the program has endemic flaws and unjustifiable human costs, which is true. The people who are remaining in Mexico, they're supposed to be at asylums and embassies and all that stuff, but they're just as limited also in Mexico. They're just as limited. So they're forced to wait outside and in homeless again or tent cities or whatever, where they're getting hate crimes against them. They're getting attacked. They're getting killed. Some of them are getting raped. Some of them are getting murdered. Some of them are getting murder raped. And then there's the others that are just plain disappearing off the face of the earth, vanishing. And I think it's pretty safe to say that we're not going to be able to recover them. It's a pretty safe bet, especially down south of the border, where the criminal elements have a whole lot more power down there. They're a lot more stronger. Do we have criminals here? Yes. Do we have hate criminals? Sure. Do we have pimps, rapists, thieves, abductors? Yes, we do actually. But every single one of those things is off of some kind of incident or another, and it's very seldom having to do with organized crime, much less an organized entrepreneurial organization. Okay, a criminal entrepreneurial organization, like the way it is south of the border. I mean, it is just intense down there. So when we have migrants come over here, we should be able to make more room for them, which has boggled my mind. And I've said this on the podcast. I'm going to bring this one up again, and I'm going to look into it. It boggles my mind how the Biden administration isn't authorizing job programs to be conducted here in the States, building holding facilities. Okay, not caged facilities and all this other crap that's been going on. And I'll explain to that in another time. I might be able to explain that even with the upcoming idea that I've got right now. I just haven't looked into it yet. But why hasn't anybody tried to work a deal with the government to where they can actually use construction to create facilities, which involves electrical, technical, plumbing, telecommunications, or Ethernet, internet, phone lines. The agricultural department could actually contribute, food to the place and all this other stuff. We can use our tax-paying dollars to create these facilities that'll secure them in place while they get vetted and go through the process of being a citizen. Okay, because there are people that have been bussed over to DC. There are people that have been bussed over to different various parts of the country because they already went through the vetting process. They've been there for 2 years now. They've been there since 2020, since the time that Trump started closing off the borders. There's some that have already made it, and they're in the holding facilities. They went through the process. It's now 2022, and they've already been bussed to their destinations. They went through the process. The background checks, the tests, the COVID tests, all that stuff. Okay? They've been through that. So why aren't we banking off of that? Because even if it starts off with our tax-paying dollars, it's going to be paying off in the end, starting with employing all the constructions and stuff that build the facilities, the distribution and delivery services that involve upkeeping the asylum seekers, the asylumers, and then the transporting them back and forth, transporting them out once they've completed, or back and forth to their jobs or whatever while they're on a visa, or temporary passport, transporting them back to and from the asylums facilities and all this good stuff. I'm thinking it costs a lot of money, but how much, I don't know. And where to set up, I'm not really too sure of that either. Again, the thought just came in the process and finding out about Mayorkas and the Biden administration, how they're backing each other up, despite of the cooked 50 migrants in the trailer tractor. We should be benefiting off of this, because once they're finally capable of getting jobs and moving in, they get jobs, they become taxpayers, and it's just a benefit. It's a win-win, and it's a win-win for all of us over here on this side of the state, on this side of the border. I'm going to be looking into that. I'm really not sure where to go with it, just simply because, like I've said through so many other posts, I am not an actual journalist. I just throw my 2 cents in because of all the hate mongering off of that social network and all of the, poor people. Oh, those poor people, and both sides just, hating each other and accusing each other of this and that and all this other garbage. Everybody's forgetting to do the one thing of what I'm doing, what you and I are doing, and that's taking a step back and just looking at everything, before we start judging and all this good stuff. And remember the who to follow, what's real news and what's fake, and what's real and what's fake and all that. Well, technically we know what's real and what's fake. You go to your phone, you look in the news, and you see one that says, these are the facts, these are the percentages, those are the stats, and here's what the possible outcome results. And you go to an entirely different newscast that says, these are the facts. Oh, I seriously doubt it. Those are the percentages. Oh, I think it's worse than that. These are the I think the rates. These are the rates. No, they're much higher. And these are the possible outcomes and results. No, the results are horrible. It's nowhere near going to be that. Okay? You could see the difference. You could see the difference between the two reporters and the actual journalists and the commentators. You know what's presenting the facts, and you know who's just spewing a lot of crap. Okay? You could see the difference between the two. So you keep the ones that are chosen the facts, and you swipe to the left the others that aren't. To the left. You swipe it, and you go on, you carry on with those that are providing the actual facts. So that being said, my comments are Chris's comments, which are just simply comments. I'll look into those issues. I'll look at it. I'll try to provide some kind of proper stats and all this good stuff. But I really don't feel comfortable with just saying this and that and not having anything to back that up. So it might take a small while. It might take a small while on Chris's thoughts and theories. But for right now, this is what we got going on here at the 4th of July weekend, Independence Day. It's now Monday, July 4th, and I'm hoping that all of us can be cool and just calm down and be good to one another. Let's try to have a good, safe 4th of July. And that's it. And I do apologize for all the and this and that But like I said, I'm not a professional journalist. You take care, all right? We'll see you around. And this is Chris from Chris Comments, signing out.